My sister opened her Secret Santa gift and started crying before any of us saw what was inside. Not the happy kind. The kind that makes a room go silent. We were all gathered at my parents' house, 12 of us. Same as every year. My mom's side of the family. The tree was up, the ham was cooling, and we'd just finished the gift exchange we'd been doing since we were kids. Everyone draws a name on Thanksgiving. $20 limit. You wrap it, you don't tell anyone, and on Christmas night, we all open them together. Sarah, my older sister, had pulled hers from under the tree. Plain red wrapping, white bow, no tag, but that wasn't unusual. Half of us forget to write names. She tore the paper slowly, like she always does. Then she stopped. Her hands started shaking. My mom leaned over. "Honey, what is it?" Sarah didn't answer. She just stared into the box like she'd seen something impossible. Then she looked up at all of us, her face drained of color, and whispered, "Who gave me this?" No one answered, because no one knew. She turned the box toward us. Inside was a small, tarnished silver bracelet, thin, delicate, with a clasp that had broken off on one side. I didn't recognize it, but my Aunt Carol did. She stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. "Where did you get that?" Her voice was sharp, accusing. My Uncle Gene reached for her arm, but she pulled away, staring at Sarah like she'd just committed a crime. Sarah shook her head. I don't know. It was under the tree. Someone put it there." My Aunt Carol's face twisted. "That belonged to Emma." The name hit the room like a stone through glass. Emma. We didn't talk about Emma. Emma was Carol's daughter, my cousin. She died when I was 9, 23 years ago. It was winter break, and she'd gone hiking with some friends up near Pineview Ridge. There was a fall. They said it was an accident, but Carol never accepted that. She spent years convinced someone had pushed her. The investigation went nowhere. The case went cold. The family just stopped bringing it up. I hadn't thought about Emma in years, but now her name was back in the room, and my Aunt Carol was staring at that bracelet like it had crawled out of a grave. "That was buried with her," Carol said, her voice breaking. "I put it on her wrist myself." My mom stood up. "Carol, that's not possible. I'm telling you, I put it on her. I watched them close the casket." Sarah set the box down like it had burned her. "Then this isn't the same one. It can't be." But Carol was already moving. She grabbed the bracelet, turned it over, and held it up to the light. Her breath hitched. On the inside of the band, faint but unmistakable, were two initials scratched into the metal. E.H. Emma Harrison. My Uncle Gene tried to pull her back to her seat, but she wouldn't move. She just kept staring at the rest of us, her eyes wild, scanning every face. "Who did this?" No one answered, because no one had. My mom tried to calm things down. She suggested we all check our phones, see if anyone had accidentally ordered something weird online, maybe got their gifts mixed up. But Carol wasn't listening. She was fixated on the idea that someone in the room had dug up her daughter's grave and stolen from her body. It sounds insane, but the bracelet was real. We went around the circle. Everyone swore they hadn't bought it. My cousin Jake showed his Amazon order, a candle. My mom showed hers, a coffee mug. My brother pulled up his receipt from Target. One by one, we eliminated every person in the room. No one had bought the bracelet. So where did it come from? Sarah was still pale, sitting in the corner with her arms wrapped around herself. My dad suggested maybe it had been in the house somewhere. Maybe Mom had found it in an old jewelry box and wrapped it by accident. But my mom shook her head. She'd never seen it before. And besides, if it had been in the house, how would it have Emma's initials? That's when my younger cousin Lily spoke up. She's 16, quiet kid, doesn't talk much at these things. She was sitting on the floor by the tree, her phone in her lap, and she looked up at all of us with this strange expression on her face. There were 13 gifts under the tree this year. We all turned to her. "What?" my mom said. "I counted them earlier. When I got here, there were 13. I thought it was weird because there's only 12 of us." The room went still. My dad walked over to the tree and crouched down, moving aside the discarded wrapping paper and ribbons. He counted the empty boxes and torn paper. 13, one extra, which meant someone or something had added a gift to the pile, and none of us had noticed. Carol's voice was barely a whisper. "It's her. Carol, don't..." My uncle started. "It's Emma. She's trying to tell us something." My mom tried to reason with her, but Carol was already spiraling. She started talking about how Emma had always said she'd come back if anything happened to her, how she'd promised, as a joke, that if she ever died, she'd haunt the hell out of whoever was responsible. I didn't believe in ghosts, but I couldn't explain the bracelet. We decided to call it a night. People started gathering their things, hugging awkwardly, avoiding eye contact. My mom wrapped up leftovers in silence. My dad turned off the tree lights. Sarah left the bracelet on the mantel. No one wanted to touch it. I stayed behind to help clean up. My mom was quiet the whole time, scrubbing dishes with this distant look on her face. Finally, she turned to me and said, "Do you remember the last Christmas Emma was here?" I did. Barely. She'd been 18, home from her first semester of college. I remember her sitting on the couch with a mug of cider, laughing at something my dad said. She'd drawn my name for Secret Santa that year, gave me a deck of cards, and told me to learn a magic trick. I never did. My mom's voice cracked. She told me something that night. After everyone went to bed, she said she'd been thinking about Pineview Ridge, about going back up there before break ended. I told her to be careful. She just smiled and said, "Don't worry, Mom. If something happens, you'll know." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What do you mean you'll know?" My mom looked at me, her eyes wet. She said, "I'll find a way to tell you." I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the bracelet, about the 13th gift, about Emma. The next morning, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah. "Check your Secret Santa gift." I frowned. I'd already opened mine. It was a book, some thriller I'd mentioned wanting months ago. I'd thanked everyone and moved on, but Sarah's text made me pull it off my nightstand and flip through the pages. Tucked inside the front cover was a folded piece of paper. I opened it. It was a photocopy of a photograph. 5 people standing on a snowy ridge. Emma in the center, her friends on either side. The date stamped in the corner. December 28th, 2 days after Christmas, the day she died. But that wasn't what made my blood run cold. In the background, partially obscured by a tree, was another person. Someone we hadn't seen in the original investigation photos. Someone standing 20 feet back, watching. I couldn't make out the face, but I recognized the jacket. It was my Uncle Gene's. I called Sarah. She was crying again. "I found the same picture in my coat pocket this morning. I don't know how it got there." I tried to think. Gene had been at the house last night. He'd been sitting right there during the gift exchange, silent, staring at Carol the whole time like he was afraid she'd fall apart. He'd been Emma's stepfather. He married Carol when Emma was 12, and Emma had never liked him. I didn't want to believe it, but the picture didn't lie. I told Sarah we needed to go to the police. She agreed. But when we called Carol to tell her, she didn't answer. We drove to her house. The door was unlocked. Inside, the living room was a mess. Furniture overturned, picture frames shattered on the floor. And in the center of the room, on the coffee table, was the bracelet. Next to it was a note, handwritten in shaky letters. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go that far." It was signed by Gene. We found him in the garage. He'd hanged himself. The police came. They found a confession on his phone, a draft email he'd never sent. He admitted he'd been on the ridge that day, that he and Emma had argued, that she'd confronted him about something she'd found, something about Carol's finances, something he'd been hiding. He said she threatened to tell. He said he pushed her, and he said he'd spent 23 years trying to bury it. But Emma hadn't let him. The case was reopened. Gene's confession was enough to confirm what Carol had believed all along. Emma didn't fall. She was murdered. And somehow, after 23 years, she'd found a way to tell us. I don't know how the bracelet got into that box. I don't know who wrapped it, but I know this. When I went back to my parents' house the next week, the box was still there on the mantel, and when I opened it, just to see, there was something new inside. A small card, handwritten in curly letters I hadn't seen in decades. It said, "Thanks for listening. Merry Christmas." It was Emma's handwriting. I've been plowing snow for the county for 11 years, and I've never missed a route. Not once. But tonight, Christmas Eve, I'm starting to think I should have stayed home. My shift started at 10 p.m. Standard winter storm protocol, heavy snow expected overnight. Roads need to be clear by morning so families can get to church, to each other's houses, to wherever they're going. It's a lonely job, but I don't mind. I like the quiet, the hum of the engine, the way the world looks when it's buried in white. I was assigned Route 12, same as always. 40 miles of back roads through the hills west of town. Farms, forest, a couple of old houses set back from the road. Nothing unusual. I'd done it 100 times. But tonight, something was different. I noticed it about an hour in. I was heading north on Blackwell Road, pushing through 6 inches of fresh powder when I passed the Crenshaw farm. Big red barn, white farmhouse with a wraparound porch, Christmas lights strung up along the roof. I'd seen it lit up plenty of times, but tonight, the lights were blinking. Not the normal twinkling kind. This was erratic, frantic, like someone was flipping the switch on and off as fast as they could. I slowed down, leaned forward, and squinted through the windshield. The lights went out, then back on, then out again. On, off, on, off. I thought maybe it was a bad connection, a breaker flipping, but then I saw movement in one of the upstairs windows. Someone was standing there, watching me. I couldn't make out a face. The snow was coming down too hard, but I could see the silhouette. Tall, motionless, pressed up against the glass. I told myself it was just someone looking out at the storm. But the way they stood there, not moving, not waving, just staring, it made my skin crawl. I kept driving. A few minutes later, I passed the old Methodist church. It sits at the fork where Blackwell splits into 2 routes. One heads toward Miller's Crossing, the other loops back toward town. The church has been abandoned for years. No congregation, no heat, just a shell of a building with boarded up windows and a crooked steeple. But tonight, the front door was open. Not just cracked, wide open, and there were footprints leading inside. Fresh ones. I stopped the plow and put it in park. I sat there for a minute, engine idling, wipers going back and forth, trying to decide if I should check it out or just keep moving. Then I saw the light, a faint, flickering glow coming from inside the church. Candlelight, maybe, or a flashlight. I grabbed my radio and called dispatch. "Yeah, this is Unit 7 on Route 12. I'm at the old Methodist church on Blackwell. Looks like someone might be inside. You want me to check it out?" Static. I tried again. "Dispatch, do you copy?" Nothing. I checked the radio. It was on. Battery was fine, but I wasn't getting a signal. That didn't make sense. I'd used the radio 20 minutes ago with no problem. I thought about just leaving. It wasn't my job to investigate trespassers, but something about the open door, the footprints, the light, it didn't sit right. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the snow. The cold hit me immediately. The wind was brutal, cutting through my coat like it wasn't even there. I pulled my hood up and started toward the church, following the footprints. They were strange. Not boot prints, not shoe prints. They were bare feet. Someone had walked through 6 inches of snow in bare feet. I stopped at the door and shined my light inside. The interior of the church was a wreck. Pews overturned, hymnals scattered across the floor. The altar at the front was covered in old, melted candles, and in the center of it all was a single lit candle, burning steady despite the draft. But no one was inside. I called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" My voice echoed. No answer. I was about to turn around when I noticed something carved into the wall behind the altar. Words, scratched deep into the wood. like someone had used a knife or a piece of metal. "They're not leaving." I felt my stomach drop. I backed out of the church, turned, and headed straight for the plow. I didn't care who was inside. I didn't care what they were doing. I just wanted to finish my route and get the hell out of there. I climbed back into the cab, slammed the door, and threw the plow into gear. But when I looked up at the road ahead, I froze. There were people standing in the middle of the street, 6 of them, all in a line, all facing me. I hit the brakes. They didn't move. I laid on the horn. Still nothing. They just stood there, arms at their sides, heads tilted slightly, staring at the plow. I leaned forward, trying to get a better look. They were all dressed in old-fashioned clothing, long coats, scarves, hats, like something out of a century-old photograph. And none of them were wearing shoes. Their feet were bare, standing in the snow, and they didn't seem to care. I rolled down the window and shouted, "Get out of the road!" They didn't respond. I honked again. One of them, a woman in the center, took a step forward, then another. She started walking toward the plow, slow and deliberate, her bare feet crunching through the snow. I put the truck in reverse and backed up. She kept coming. The others followed. I spun the wheel, turned the plow around, and floored it back the way I'd come. But when I reached the fork in the road, I realized something was wrong. The road I'd just cleared, the one I'd spent the last hour plowing, was covered in snow again. Thick, untouched snow, like I'd never been there. I stopped the plow and stared. That wasn't possible. It had only been a few minutes. I looked in the rearview mirror. The 6 figures were gone, but standing in the middle of the road behind me, just barely visible in the falling snow, was someone else. A man, tall, thin, wearing a long black coat. He was holding something in his hand, a lantern, and he was walking toward me. I didn't wait to see what he wanted. I hit the gas and kept driving. For the next hour, I tried every route I knew, every turn, every back road. But no matter where I went, the snow was always untouched, like I'd never plowed it, like I'd been driving in circles. And every time I looked in the mirror, the man with the lantern was there, closer, always closer. I tried the radio again. Still nothing. I tried my phone. No signal. I was alone. Finally, around 2 a.m., I saw lights up ahead. A town. I didn't recognize it at first. The buildings looked old. The streetlights were gas lamps. There were no cars, no modern signs, but there were people, dozens of them, all standing in the street, all dressed in the same old-fashioned clothes, all staring at me. I stopped the plow in the middle of the road and looked around. This wasn't my town. This wasn't anywhere I knew. And then I saw the sign at the edge of the street. "Welcome to Pinewood. Population 287. I knew that name. Pinewood was a mining town. It had been abandoned in 1902 after a collapse killed most of the workers. It didn't exist anymore, but I was looking right at it. I tried to back up, but the plow wouldn't move. The man with the lantern was standing in front of me now. He raised the lantern high, and one by one, the people in the street started walking toward the plow. I locked the doors. I screamed into the radio. I honked the horn until my hand went numb, but they kept coming. And when the first hand pressed against the glass, I finally understood. I wasn't plowing a road. I was plowing a route that didn't exist anymore, a route that had been buried for over 100 years. And everyone who used to live here, everyone who died here, they'd been waiting for someone to clear the way so they could leave. The glass cracked, and the last thing I saw before they pulled me out was my own reflection in the side mirror. I looked tired, like I hadn't slept in years. They found the plow 3 days later, buried in a snowbank off Route 12, about 10 miles from the old Methodist church. The engine was still running, but the cab was empty. They never found me. My supervisor said I must have gotten disoriented in the storm, wandered off, froze. But here's the thing. Every Christmas Eve since then, someone reports seeing a plow on Route 12, driving slow, clearing snow, and when they get close enough to see inside the cab, they say the driver looks wrong, pale, hollow, like they've been driving for a very long time. I wouldn't know. Because I'm still plowing, and I can't stop. If you're still listening, you're braver than most. Make sure you subscribe to Broken Shadows. I post new terrifying stories every day, and the next ones are even darker. I didn't think anyone knew I was out here. The cabin belongs to my uncle. It's about 40 miles outside of town, tucked into the woods at the end of a dirt road that barely gets plowed. He only uses it in the summer, but he lets me stay here when I need to disappear for a while. And I needed to disappear. Bad breakup. Lost my job. The holidays were coming, and I couldn't stand the idea of sitting through another family dinner pretending everything was fine. So I packed a bag, drove out here, and told everyone I'd be back after New Year's. I'd been here 3 days when I heard the singing. It was Christmas Eve. Around 9 p.m., I was sitting by the fire with a book and a glass of whiskey, trying to ignore the fact that my phone had no service and the only thing on the radio was static. Then, faint but clear, I heard voices outside, singing. I set the book down and listened. It was a Christmas carol. God rest ye merry gentlemen. Slow, harmonized. The kind of singing you'd hear from a church choir, not from the middle of the woods. I stood up and walked to the window. The cabin sits in a small clearing, trees on all sides, no neighbors for miles. The snow was falling light and steady, and in the darkness beyond the porch light, I could see nothing but shadows. But the singing was getting closer. I opened the front door and stepped out onto the porch. The cold hit me immediately, but I didn't care. I was too focused on the sound. They were close now. Maybe 50 feet away, just past the tree line. I called out, "Hello?" The singing stopped. Silence. I waited. Then, slowly, they started again. Same song, same harmony, but now it felt wrong, like the melody had shifted just slightly out of tune. I squinted into the darkness, trying to see them, and then I did. 4 figures stepped out from between the trees. They were dressed in old winter coats and scarves. 2 men, 2 women. They stood in a line, perfectly still, staring at the cabin. At me. I raised a hand. "Can I help you?" They didn't answer. They just started singing again, louder this time. I felt my chest tighten. Something about the way they stood there so still, so synchronized, made my skin crawl. I forced a smile. "Look, I appreciate the caroling, but I'm not really in the mood tonight. Merry Christmas, though." I turned to go back inside, and they took a step forward, all 4 of them. At the same time, I froze. "Hey, stop." They didn't. They took another step, and another. They were walking toward the cabin now, still singing, their voices rising in perfect, eerie harmony. I backed up and slammed the door. I locked it, threw the deadbolt. Then I went to the window and looked out. They were standing at the edge of the porch, still singing, still staring. I grabbed my phone. No signal. I tried the landline my uncle keeps in the kitchen. Dead. I was alone. I went back to the window. They were closer now, standing on the porch steps. I could see their faces clearly in the light from the window. Pale, expressionless. Their mouths moved in perfect sync, but their eyes didn't blink. They just kept singing, over and over. The same verse, the same 4 lines. God rest ye merry gentlemen. Let nothing you dismay. I backed away from the window and sat down on the couch, my heart pounding. I told myself they'd leave eventually, that this was just some weird prank. Maybe some locals who thought it'd be funny to scare the guy staying in the cabin. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true, because no one knew I was here. An hour passed. They didn't leave. They stood on the porch, singing, their voices muffled but constant. I tried to ignore them, tried to focus on the fire, the book, anything, but I couldn't. Finally, I stood up and walked to the door. I pressed my ear against the wood and listened. The singing had stopped. I waited. Silence. I exhaled, relieved. Then, softly, I heard it. A knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I stepped back. Another knock. "Go away," I said, my voice shaking. No response. Just another knock. I looked through the peephole. One of them was standing directly in front of the door. A woman, middle-aged. Her face was inches from the glass, staring straight at me. Her mouth wasn't moving, but I could still hear the singing coming from behind her. From all of them, I stumbled back and grabbed the fire poker from the hearth. "I'm calling the police," I shouted. I wasn't. I couldn't, but maybe it would scare them off. It didn't. The knocking continued, louder now, faster. And then I heard something else, scratching, at the windows, at the back door, at the walls. They were all around the cabin. I ran to the kitchen and looked out the window. There were more of them now, 8, maybe 10, all standing in the snow, all facing the cabin, all singing. I didn't recognize the song anymore. It had twisted into something low and droning, the words slurred together into a single, endless hum. I locked every window, every door. I turned off the lights and sat in the dark, holding the fire poker, trying to think. But I couldn't think, because the singing was getting inside my head. I don't know how long I sat there. Hours, maybe. But eventually, the sun started to rise. And when the first light of dawn broke through the trees, the singing stopped. I stood up, my legs stiff, my hands trembling, and looked out the window. They were gone. No footprints, no sign they'd ever been there, just fresh snow and silence. I packed my bag and left within the hour. I didn't tell my uncle what happened. I didn't tell anyone. But when I got home, I found something in my coat pocket that I know wasn't there before. A small, folded piece of paper. I opened it. It was a handwritten note. In perfect, old-fashioned script, it said, "Thank you for listening. We'll see you next year. I don't go back to the cabin anymore, but every Christmas Eve, around 9 p.m., I hear it. Faint, distant, just outside my window, singing. And I know, sooner or later, I'm going to open the door." The Christmas party was Lisa's idea. She's the office manager, and every year she insists on doing a white elephant gift exchange. $20 limit. Bring something funny, something useful, something weird, it doesn't matter. The point is to drink wine, swap gifts, and pretend we all like each other for a few hours before the holiday break. I didn't want to go, but I went. There were 15 of us crammed into the conference room. Cheap decorations, a folding table covered in appetizers, a Bluetooth speaker playing instrumental Christmas music that no one was listening to. The gifts were piled in the center of the room, wrapped in foil, newspaper, old gift bags, whatever people had lying around. Lisa stood up, slightly tipsy, and clapped her hands. "All right, everyone, you know the rules. Pick a number, pick a gift. If someone steals yours, pick again. Let's get weird." People laughed. Someone refilled their cup. I picked number 7. When my turn came, I grabbed a box from the middle of the pile. It was heavier than I expected. Wrapped in plain brown paper. No tag, no bow. I sat down and tore it open. Inside was a wooden box. Old, dark wood with brass hinges. The kind of thing you'd find in an antique store. I opened the lid. Inside was a single object, a snow globe, but not a normal one. The glass was cloudy, like it hadn't been cleaned in decades. The base was tarnished silver, engraved with something I couldn't quite read. And inside, instead of a winter scene or a little village, there was just a figure, a person, standing alone in the snow. I held it up to the light. The figure was too detailed, too realistic. It almost looked like a photograph, frozen inside the glass. "What is it?" Lisa asked, leaning over. I shook the globe. The snow inside swirled, but the figure didn't move. It just stood there, staring out. "That's creepy," someone said. I laughed it off and set it on the table. The game continued. People stole gifts, argued over candles and wine bottles, laughed too loud. I forgot about the snow globe until Amanda picked it. She was number 12. She'd had her gift stolen twice already, so when she grabbed the snow globe from my spot on the table, I didn't say anything. She looked at it for a moment, tilted her head, then smiled. I like weird stuff. I'll keep it. We all moved on, but about 10 minutes later, I noticed Amanda wasn't laughing anymore. She was sitting in the corner, staring at the snow globe in her lap. I walked over. "You okay?" She didn't look up. "Amanda?" She blinked, like she'd just woken up. Then she looked at me, her face pale. "Do you see it?" "See what?" She held up the globe. I leaned in. The figure inside had moved. It wasn't standing in the same place anymore. It was closer, pressed against the glass. I felt my stomach twist. "That's not possible." Amanda shook the globe again, harder this time. The snow swirled, but the figure stayed where it was, right up against the glass, like it was trying to get out. "I want to put it back," Amanda whispered. "Then put it back." She set it on the table and stood up, her hands shaking. "I don't feel good. I think I'm going to go." She grabbed her coat and left without saying goodbye. The party went on. People kept drinking, kept laughing, but I couldn't stop staring at the snow globe. No one touched it for the rest of the night. When the party ended, Lisa started cleaning up. I helped her bag the leftover food, fold the chairs. The snow globe was still sitting on the table. "Should we throw that away?" I asked. Lisa picked it up, turned it over, and frowned. "Someone brought it. We should at least try to figure out who." She looked at the base, squinted, then read the engraving out loud. "To those who watch, the watchers return." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What does that mean?" I asked. Lisa shrugged. "No idea. But it's giving me the creeps. I'll just leave it in the lost and found. If no one claims it, I'll toss it." She set it on the shelf by the door, and we left. I didn't think about it again until the next morning. I got to work early. The office was empty. I made coffee, checked my email, and noticed something strange. Amanda hadn't called in, hadn't sent a message. She just wasn't there. I texted her. No response. Around noon, Lisa came into my office. Her face was pale. "Did you hear about Amanda?" "What about her?" "She's missing." My heart dropped. "What do you mean, missing?" "Her roommate called the police this morning. She never came home last night. Her car's still in the parking lot. Her phone's off. No one's seen her." I thought about the snow globe, about the way Amanda had looked at it, the way she'd left without saying goodbye. "Where's the globe?" I asked. Lisa frowned. "What?" "The snow globe from last night. Where is it?" "I put it in the lost and found." "Why?" I stood up and walked to the shelf by the door. The snow globe was gone. Lisa followed me. "That's weird. I definitely left it there." We searched the office, the break room, the conference room. It was gone. But then, around 3 p.m., I found it, sitting on my desk, right in the center, like someone had placed it there while I was gone. I stared at it. The figure inside had moved again. It wasn't alone anymore. There were two figures now, both standing in the snow, both facing out. I recognized one of them. It was Amanda. I grabbed the snow globe and ran to Lisa's office. "Look at this." She looked. Her face went white. "That's not possible." "I know. We need to get rid of it." "How?" She didn't answer. "We tried everything. We tried to throw it away. It reappeared on my desk. We tried to smash it. The glass wouldn't break. We tried to leave it outside. It was back inside within the hour. And every time we looked at it, there was another figure inside. By the end of the day, there were 5. Amanda, 3 people I didn't recognize, and one I did, Lisa. I looked at her. She was standing right next to me, but inside the globe, she was standing in the snow, staring out. "Lisa," she collapsed. I called 911. They took her to the hospital. The doctors said it was a seizure. But when I visited her the next day, she wouldn't speak. She just stared at the ceiling, her eyes glassy, her mouth slightly open, like she was somewhere else. I went back to the office. The snow globe was on my desk, and now there were 6 figures. I'm writing this because I don't know what else to do. I tried to research the globe. I found references to something similar, an old legend about a cursed object that traps people inside, a collector's item from the 1800s. No one knows who made it, but every account says the same thing. Once you look at it, you're marked. And eventually, it takes you. I've been staring at it for 3 hours now. And I just noticed something. There are 7 figures inside. The 7th one is wearing my jacket. I can feel it happening. My vision is starting to blur. The room is getting colder. The walls feel farther away. If you ever find a snow globe at a white elephant party, don't take it. Don't look at it. And whatever you do, don't shake it. Because once the snow starts falling, you're already inside. I bought the Advent calendar at an estate sale 3 weeks before Christmas. I wasn't even looking for one. I'd gone to the sale because I'd heard the woman who lived there had died alone, and her house was full of antiques. I'm a sucker for old things, books, furniture, anything with history. The calendar was sitting on a table near the back of the house, half buried under a pile of linens. It was beautiful. Hand-carved wood, 25 little doors, each one painted with intricate detail, snowflakes, stars, tiny winter scenes. The craftsmanship was incredible, the kind of thing you don't see anymore. The woman running the sale noticed me looking at it. "That's a strange one," she said. "Been in the family for generations, supposedly, but no one wanted it." "Why not?" She shrugged. "Superstition, I guess. The old lady never opened it, kept it in a closet, said it gave her bad dreams." I laughed. "I'll take it." She sold it to me for $10. I brought it home, set it on my mantle, and forgot about it until December 1st. That morning, I opened the first door. Inside was a tiny wooden number, 1, and beneath it, carved into the wood in small letters, was a single word: visitor. I thought it was charming, a little cryptic maybe, but nothing unusual for an antique. That afternoon, someone knocked on my door. It was a woman I didn't recognize, middle-aged, well-dressed. She smiled and said she was from the Historical Society, doing research on old homes in the neighborhood. She asked if she could come in and take a look around. I said yes. She stayed for about an hour, taking notes, asking questions about the house. Then she left. I didn't think anything of it until the next morning, December 2nd. I opened the second door. Inside was another number, 2, and beneath it, one word: return. I stared at it. Then I heard a knock at the door. It was the same woman from the Historical Society. She smiled. "I'm so sorry to bother you again, but I think I left my notebook here yesterday. Do you mind if I take a quick look?" I let her in. She searched for a few minutes, then thanked me and left. But I never saw a notebook. December 3rd. I opened the third door. Inside, 3, and the word, watching. I felt a chill run through me. I looked out the window. The woman was standing across the street, just standing there, staring at my house. When she saw me, she didn't wave. She didn't move. She just kept staring. I closed the curtains. For the next week, I didn't open the calendar. I couldn't, because I knew somehow. I knew that whatever was written inside those doors was going to happen. But on December 10th, I cracked. I had to know. I opened the 10th door. Inside, 10, and the word, inside. I heard a noise upstairs. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving across the floor above me. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and climbed the stairs. Every room was empty. But when I got to my bedroom, I saw it. The woman's notebook, sitting on my bed. I hadn't let her upstairs. I hadn't seen her in days, but somehow, she'd been inside my house. I called the police. They came. They searched. They found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No evidence of anyone being inside. But the notebook was real. I opened it. Every page was filled with notes about me. My schedule. My habits. The places I went. The people I talked to. She'd been watching me for weeks. And at the bottom of the last page, written in red ink, was a single sentence: "The calendar always knows." I burned the notebook, but I couldn't bring myself to destroy the calendar. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid of what would happen if I did. So I kept opening the doors. December 11th. Closer. December 12th. Waiting. December 13th. Soon. Each day, the words got worse, and each day, I saw her, standing outside, watching, getting closer to the house. On December 20th, I opened the door and found the word, tonight. I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with every light on, a baseball bat in my lap, staring at the front door. At 3 a.m., I heard scratching, at the windows, at the walls, at the door. I called 911. The operator said they'd send someone, but no one came. At 4 a.m., the scratching stopped, and I heard her voice, soft, calm, right outside the door. Let me in. I didn't answer. I just want to see the calendar. I gripped the bat tighter. Please. The doorknob started to turn. I screamed. I ran upstairs. I locked myself in the bathroom and called 911 again. This time, they came. They searched the house. They found no one. But when I went back downstairs, the calendar was open. December 21st. The word inside, mine. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the calendar, drove to the lake, and threw it into the water. I watched it sink, and for the first time in weeks, I felt relief. But when I got home, the calendar was back on the mantle, dry, untouched, and the door for December 22nd was already open. Inside, it said, consequences. That night, my power went out. My phone died, and when I looked out the window, I saw her, standing in my yard, holding a lantern. She wasn't alone anymore. There were others with her, dozens of them, all standing in the snow, all staring at the house. I ran to the calendar. I had to stop this. I had to end it. I tore open the door for December 23rd. Inside. Too late. The front door opened. I didn't open it. It just opened, and she walked in. The others followed. They didn't speak. They didn't touch me. They just stood there, surrounding me, staring, while she walked to the mantel and picked up the calendar. She smiled. You should have kept opening the doors. I tried to run, but I couldn't move. I was frozen. She opened the door for December 24th. Inside, written in red, taken, and then I felt it, a pull, like something was dragging me backward, into the wall, into the calendar, into the cold. The last thing I saw was her closing the door behind me. They found my house empty 3 days later. No signs of a struggle. No evidence of foul play. Just an old advent calendar sitting on the mantel, with one door left to open, December 25th. If you ever find an advent calendar at an estate sale, leave it there. Because once you open the first door, you're already part of the tradition, and the calendar always finishes what it starts. Before you go, if you made it this far into the darkness, it means one thing. You're one of us now. Here in Broken Shadows, we tell real stories, the kind that stay with you long after the screen goes black, and the woods outside your window feel just a little too quiet. So if you want more true scary stories, more forest encounters, more things that should not exist but somehow do, subscribe, join us. I upload new horror stories every night, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Stay safe, stay aware, and whatever you do, don't look behind you.